Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Ashwin Joglekar and I am from Resonance PCCP division. Today we are going to do or discuss basically the chapter resource and development. Now this is the first chapter of your geography portion. Now let us quickly start and get over with the chapter. Resources and development. Now as we know, resources are something that is which can be put to human use. Now how resources can be developed and what can be the planning involved in that, because otherwise if there is indiscriminate use of resources, probably these resources would not be left for anyone to be utilized. So therefore there is a proper planning which has to be involved, and then what are the aspects that in this we will be looking at land and soil resources, and what are the factors which have led to the degradation of these and how we can conserve these resources. So let us quickly begin with the chapter, that is introduction. Talks about that is everything which is available in our environment or which can be used to satisfy our needs, provided it is some of the things which you have to keep in mind, that is technologically it should be accessible, it should be economically feasible, and culturally it should be accepted, can be termed as resource. Now if you remember the first Avatar movie, now in that there was a precious metal which was required, but that tree that was available, the huge quantity was available beneath the tree which was of a sacred tree of those people. So it was not culturally acceptable for them, right, to cut off that tree and extract that resource. So therefore just an example here. So resource has to be technologically accessible, you should have the technology, you should have the means, that is economically it should be feasible for you, also culturally it should be acceptable. Now human beings themselves are a very important or essential resource. Without human beings, probably the material which is available in the environment cannot be transformed and put to human use. So with the help of technology and institutions, that is structures, they transform materials available in the nature into economically viable resources. Now this you can see the chart here, that is physical environment, nature. Human beings are interacting with physical environment, that is institutions and technology, and producing resources. Are resources free gifts of nature? So the answer is no. Resources are a function of human activities, and human beings themselves are essential component of resources. They transform the material available in our environment into resources and use them. Importance of resources now. Resources, they form the backbone of the economy of any nation. Resources form the base of economic strength and prosperity of a nation. By utilizing natural resources, humans have created their own world of living. So any country needs resources to function. That is, if we see the example of Middle East countries, now why they are so rich? Because of the availability of a resource, that is oil. Now what are the characteristics of a resource? That is, resources have utility, resources are normally available in limited quantity, man has to make effort to get utility from this resource, and resources help to create goods as well as or provide services. And utility of a resource or its usability changes with improvement in science and technology. Now as a resource is developed further, probably its usage or its usability may also change, or its utility will also change. Now types of resources, this portion has not been or has been rationalized for this year, that is for the exams 2022-23. So we will not be taking this thing, but you can just have a look that resources are classified on the basis of natural, human, alright, renewable, non-renewable, continuous, biological, natural, wildlife, recyclable, non-recyclable, recyclable, structures, and quantity and quality. So on this basis resources have been classified. Now this actually has not has been rationalized, so therefore like on the basis of origin, biotic, abiotic, exhaustibility, ownership, and then you have on the basis of status of development. All right. Now we will be moving on, that is the next part, development of resources. Now development is a necessary exercise for the utilization of resources. It is not only exploitation but also preservation and reuse of those particular resources. Examples, that is land has to be cleared of forests or unwanted plants before agriculture. Minerals have to be dug out from the earth, and smelting has to be done before being converted into machinery. Water has to be taken to fields to irrigate lands. Now points to be kept in mind while using the natural resources. Renewable resources should not be put to wrong use or polluted because they are limited. Non-renewable resources should be used properly and should be preserved for the future generation as well. I am sorry, non-renewable resources are limited, renewable resources are abundant, okay, and these non-renewable resources should be used in a proper and judicious manner. Human beings have used the resources indiscriminately, and this has led to the following major problems. Now, what has because of the overutilization of these resources, it has led to depletion. Also, the concentration of resources in a few hands, that is between the haves and the have-nots, and leading to global ecological crisis. So, now this global ecological crisis, that is environmental pollution, ozone layer depletion, global warming and land degradation. Depletion of resources for satisfying, that is the greeds of few individuals, accumulation of resources in a few hands, which in turn divided the society into two segments, that is haves and have-nots, or the rich and the poor. And indiscriminate exploitation of resources has led to global ecological crisis such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution as well as land degradation. Therefore, the need was felt for a sustainable development program, that is the judicious use of resources, that is using the resources for our needs as well as conserving them for the future generations as well. So, the first meeting was held, that is in Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. Sustainable economic development means development should take place without damaging the environment, and development present should not compromise with the needs of the future generations. So, Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992 adopted the Agenda 21 for achieving this sustainable development. Now, resource planning, how resource planning is done, that is first is need based, that is resource planning is essential for sustainable existence of all forms of life, and sustainable existence is a component of sustainable or part of sustainable development. What is the importance of resource planning? See, planning is widely accepted. Now, if we do anything in a planned manner, obviously it will yield better results for us. So, planning is widely accepted strategy for judicious use of resources. It has importance in a country like India, which has enormous diversity in the availability of resources. So, but there are some regions which are devoid of these resources, rich in certain types of resources but are deficient in some other resources. Now, there are some regions which can be considered as self-sufficient in terms of availability of a particular resource, and there are some regions which have acute shortage of some vital or important resources. Now, this therefore calls for a balanced use of these resources, which has to be done at the planning has to be done at the national, state and regional and local levels. Now, there are three aspects of resource planning in India. First is the identification and inventory of resources, that is we have to identify and create an inventory of the resources which are available in the different regions of the country. Now, again this involves surveying, mapping and qualitative as well as quantitative estimation of that particular resource and measurement of the resource. Then we have to evolve a planning structure endowed with the kind of technology which is available with us, skills as well as institutional setup which we have for implementing this resource development plans, whatever the plans which we have, and then matching this resource development plan with the overall national development plan. So, that is what is resource planning in India, and generally it can be asked in a 3 marks question. Moving further, do you think that mere availability of resource in a particular region can lead to its development? So, availability of resource is a necessary condition, but apart from that other things are also required. That is, but mere availability is not in the absence of corresponding changes in technology and institutions may hinder development, may obstruct development. Alright. So, there are many regions in a country that are rich in resources, but again these are included in economically backward regions. On the contrary, there are some regions which have poor resource base, but they are economically well developed. So, resources can contribute to the development only when they are accompanied by appropriate technology, technological development and institutional changes or setups which are there. Now, this brings us to the need of conservation of resources. Now, again it is judicious and planned use of resources which we have to do. Why is the need? Because most of the resources are which we have are non-renewable, and once they get exhausted, it can never be reused. Economic development of a nation depends to a great extent on the richness and development of and management of the resources which are available with the country. Inappropriate and reckless reutilization can deplete their quantities, and over exploitation can cause damage to the existing environment as well. So again, this is a small thing, box information, that is which is provided in the NCERT as well. Okay, in 1968, more systematic approach was taken up by the Club of Rome for sustainable development. Then in 1974, this Gandhian philosophy was adopted in a book included by presented in the book by Schumacher, that is small is beautiful. Okay, the Gandhian philosophy of that is again, there should be no mass production. People should produce according to their needs. And then later on, the Brundtland Commission report in 1987, okay, it introduced the concept of sustainable development. And then later on, the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992. All right. Probably you can check your progress here with some questions. All right. Now this brings us to the end of the first part of the lecture on resource and development. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.